Welcome to the Academic Writing Amplified podcast. On this podcast, we believe that the culture of academia needs to change radically. Women and non-binary people are revolutionizing academia within institutions that were not built for us. If you're ready to reject the culture of overwork, kick guilt and overwhelm to the curb, and amplify your voice to make a real impact on your field without breaking down or burning out, you're in the right place. With our team of experienced writing coaches as co-hosts, we'll share insights and talk to inspiring guests to bring you the practical strategies, systems, and mindset shifts you need to find time to write, publish work you love, and design your career on your terms. And it all starts with writing. Let's go. Happy New Year! Yay! Okay, I'm here. This is our first podcast episode of 2023. I'm super excited. My name is Kathy Mazak, and you are listening to the Academic Writing Amplified podcast. We have a very, very special episode today because we are making a big announcement. Some of you, if you're clients, might have heard us teasing this before, but basically we are going to tell you today our brand new company name. We've renamed the company. We're going to tell you why, what you can expect in 2023. And because of that, I have as many members of our team as we could get here at one time on the podcast today. So I'm going to call on each of you, and I just want you to say your name and your role in the company. Okay. And then we will launch into our conversation. So Paulette, you're the first one on my screen. So go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Happy New Year. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Paulette. I am from Puerto Rico. I am currently the operations manager. So I work on the back end and I make sure that day-to-day operations run as smoothly as possible. And I also work with the client-facing support. So I manage the inbox, and I'm just very happy to be a resource for our community.
Thank you so much. Yes, many of you, when you're writing to us, the person who is writing back is Paulette. So many of you have had interactions with her if you're our client or if you've ever emailed us. So the next person around on my Zoom screen is actually Carla, and Carla is new to our team. So Carla, will you introduce yourself?
Yay! Thank you so much. Happy New Year to everyone. It's more than a pleasure having recently joined your wonderful community of scholars at what is now Scholars Voice. And I definitely more than look forward to getting to know everybody and see how to best support all of you in navigating, amplifying, and or elevating your goals. So again, it's a pleasure.
Thank you. Gina.
Hi, I'm Gina Robinson, and I'm a former associate professor of Spanish, and now I'm a coach, and I actually do probably the majority of the coaching calls, the one-on-one calls for the company. So if you're in one of the programs, I'm one of the people that you'll probably be spending a lot of time with. And I live way up in Vermont with my family, and it's really, really nice to be here.
Yay, Gina. Rocio.
Hola, everyone. My name is Rocio Paula Caballero Gil. It's a mouthful. I am Peruvian, born and raised. I'm a geoscientist by training, but I am also one of the coaches, and I've been with this team since, I think, 2019. It just feels like a long time, and also a short blip, because it feels so good to be part of this company, but also just this group of people, amazing community. I guess I'm assistant professor at George Mason University, and I lead different programs and projects, but I cannot let go of the coaching because it fulfills me in many ways. It helps me uplift others, and it goes in line with my mission. And so here I am, and it's a pleasure to be with all of you. Happy 2023. Go ahead, Kathy.
Yay! Okay, awesome. So we have a few team members missing. We have Thea missing. She's one of our coaches. And also we have Yulia, who is our content manager and our copywriter. So almost everything that you see written that comes to you through email, Yulia writes, actually, even if it's signed by me. I read them, oh my God, but she's actually our copywriter. So she writes all of our emails, like our In the Pipeline newsletter. And also, we also have another new person on our team, and that is Teresa, and she is my assistant. development. So she's really been helping out a lot. She's a new grad from the University of Puerto Rico, Mayagüez, and she is helping us out so much in many different ways, mostly me. I'm very excited. So we are now transitioning after 6 years of business in February, which is next month when you're listening to this podcast. We will, as a company, we will turn 6 years old. So yes, 6 years. So in 2017, wow. I know, it's incredible. I actually founded the company as like a little side hustle, like a solopreneur kind of thing. So that was 2017. In 2019 was when Gina and Rocio came on to help me with coaching. So I stopped being the only coach in 2019. And now in 2023, we are renaming the company. Scholar's Voice is the new name. So you heard it here first, Scholar's Voice. We're going to get into a little bit today about why, but one of the things we want to kind of mention first is like what it means like to make this kind of transition from a company that was really like one person to a company that is now very team focused, so much that we wanted to change the company name because the Kathy Mazak is a great name and it belongs just to me. so we were sure that our company name represents what the company really is. So I don't know if anybody wants to say just, to get started, like, how do you see the difference between working for or being Kathy Mazak LLC and now taking on this new name, which is a much more like community collective name, Scholar's Voice? I don't know if anybody wants to tell us about how that feels to you. Yeah, go ahead, Rocio, you go.
I know we're all like trying to see when do we end, I'd say something. I guess the difference to me comes more in just the name, the letters that we're using, because we have been very intentional moving towards living our mission, not just, talking about it. Right. And so we started with the programs and, co-creating Elevate with you, Gina, and with you, Kathy, was to me the first time where I could see in practice what it was to live our mission and that co-creation and that just stronger bond, like see it grow, right? And just feel it. And so, fast forward to now, changing the name and the process that we followed to really get to that, because it wasn't just like, like a one day decision. It's been a process, and it's just been more of that same living our mission, so that the words and the letters that are used to call ourselves are more aligned with that. And so big difference, but also not so much, because we've been intentional trying to move in that direction. And part of it too is that we create things, we co-create, and then we improve them through our clients' experience. So to me, the name now echoes their contributions as well, not just us as a team and individuals coming together, but also the people that we're working with, which are, like amazing, wonderful people. I don't know if anybody else wants to share something.
I agree. I was going to add that this is the culmination of years of growth and years of work. And also that I think that the company stopped being Kathy Mazak. This is going to sound very boastful of me, but when Rocio and I came on board, I think that the moment that you brought in other voices, it became, as Rocio said, co-created. And so I really like the fact that we're bringing this new name to light, but it really is just shining a light on everything we've been doing, at least since I came on board.
Yeah. I agree completely. Like, I see the new voice as like an alignment. We're just aligning our outside representation of ourselves with what's already happening inside. But that alignment is really, really important because it's so much more genuine. Like it really is like then saying like, well, we're not, I joke about being like the Kathy Mazak show because I created this thing and then I was the loudest and then I'm doing all this outside, the podcast work and all of this stuff for most of the time. And then on the inside of the programs, that's not what you got, because the more once Gina and Rocio came in, I didn't have to be on every single call anymore, which was an amazing relief for me. And then I could do other roles in the company because I didn't have to be the one actually coaching. So this is all I appreciate that you said that, Gina, that it's this process. And then I see it really as an alignment. We really started talking about, I don't know the day that we picked the new name, but we have had this new name in our back pocket for a year. And so, but what I didn't realize, and that I think all of us, Paulette too, especially, I bet, it's it's not just, you don't just flick a switch and change your brand. And you don't just flick a switch and even change the URL or the emails or any of the logistic stuff that presents us in a certain way to the world. We even last year, if you go and listen to the first podcast episode last January, I'm talking about, we're going to have more voices on the podcast and whatever. That was way harder than we thought. I don't know, Paulette, if you want to talk a little bit about processes and things that needed to get into place, or just give people some insight on why does it take such a long time to make a change like this?
This has been just an incredible journey for all of us. And I do agree with what Rocio and Gina explained. It has been a process that we have been through in the last couple of years, since everyone has been joining our company, and we have been contributing from our roles to the community that we work with and that we work for. So definitely those changes take some time, and we think that things will be more fast. We have been giving ourselves also room to tweak things and to allow ourselves for confusion, as we have also talked about as a team. So those things have taken time, and definitely we are sure that now that we have this new brand, things will not end there. We will continue to improve things and changes to take place, with the URL and all those things. But it has been such a blessing to see things take place and just see that things became a reality. Yeah. I think that seeing the new website, the new logo, all those things, it's just a blessing, because that things do come true.
Yeah, no, we created it, right? All this time we've been, we were able to bring it to life. One of the things that Paulette was referring to was on our team retreat, and Carla, you weren't there, but at our team retreat, we did all this branding work. And one of the things we did was we are a company who, or we are a company that, and we decided one of the things was we are a company that allows for confusion. We were we let ourselves be confused sometimes and not know the answers and keep moving to try to see, what we can do. So in terms of with this new name change, some things are going to stay the same and some things are going to be different. One of the things that's the same, as we've kind of said already, is really who you get inside the company once you're a client is really the same. What we're trying to do is align our outside presence more towards what we're inside once you join one of our programs. I'm still leading the company. I'm still the CEO. My other role in the company, although we definitely we all have slightly overlapping roles. But the other role in the company that I have, my main role, is as the director of marketing. So you'll still see me on webinars, and you'll see me more on the podcast, or you'll hear me more on the podcast than other people. But part of that is because I'm still the director of marketing. And part of that is because we are getting better and better at becoming podcast hosts, which is what you're going to hear more of, the different members of our team actually hosting the podcast. Some things and so that's kind of the difference. I'm just going through my checklist of things. Oh, I also wanted to say, here's a big difference in 2023 that we've been working on in 2022. And you all can jump in if you want to say anything about this. But in November 2021, we closed our Facebook group. So we made, I had built the business from my blog and then from my blog plus a Facebook group. And that Facebook group, it was called I Should Be Writing. I'm sure a lot of you were members of it. Became really, really big. At some point, it was about 16,000 people. And it was like great and also a lot to manage. And we decided to, like, as Facebook was changing their way of being in the world and becoming a different company, right? They renamed themselves Meta and all of these things. We just decided that the best place to get your writing done and to get writing advice probably wasn't on Facebook. So we decided to close that big group. And so that's been like a year and a few months that's been closed. But what that meant for us is that we need to come up with a different way to reach you all. Like, we want to reach you all with the podcast, and you're listening to the podcast, so we reached you. But how do we get you to listen to the podcast, right? Like, how do we get people to find us and just know about our company? Well, one of the things that we're working on now that's really exciting is university or organization facing retreats. And we call them retreats because for us, like, a retreat is time away from the everyday, right? Like, time that you stop and you take a chunk of time to really pay attention to yourself and your writing. And so that's why we call it a retreat. But when we do it, it looks like, an all-day workshop virtually. We're doing them virtually, and we've also done one in person. And that's something that we want to do more and more of in the next year, because we get to work with you directly. You get to know about us, and we get to, like, expand our network instead of through social media where you might see us by accident, when you're like looking at cat memes. We instead are going to be in your workplace, we hope, and we'll in a context that is much more in line with who we are and who you are. So last year we worked with St. Lawrence University and we did an in-person retreat there, and that was really great. And then in the coming year, we have scheduled a retreat with UC Davis School of Nursing. And we also have scheduled, and this is really exciting, a retreat with the Universidad de Desarrollo in Santiago, Chile. So that means we're going to have our retreat available and all the materials available in Spanish. And so that is just ways that we're expanding our offer, ways that we're creating different ways to meet you, right? And different, like, programs that we can connect with our audience, but that those programs aren't like, you don't see us by accident while you're looking for other things on social media. It's a much more kind of directed and targeted thing. So I will just say, if you want information about those, you can write to us. You can reply to any of our emails that you get. Right now, I'm going to still give you the old email, which is support@kathymazak.com. You can write to get a brochure and information. If you want to share, we're calling them Scholars Voice Retreats, virtual or in person. If you want to share those with your university or your organization, we would love to. We want to do 12. We got 2 scheduled. So we want to do 12 next year. We've got 2 scheduled, 1 in the waiting room, and space for more. So that's another thing that's kind of different. It's really a different approach to how we find new members of our audience. I don't know if anybody wants to talk about that before I kind of move on to the actual name.
I just want to say I'm very excited to do it in Spanish. It's going to be awesome. I look forward to doing it in all the languages that I can speak. But this one is going to be the first one in Spanish, and it will be very special. So it's going to be great.
Yeah. And just for people listening, like, the reason that we are going virtually, I wanted to go to Chile actually, but we're going virtually. It's great. Was that
not until April,
right? The reason that we got those connections was through our audience. Like, we asked in our email list, we were like, hey, would you want us to come do a retreat at your school? Here's the information, how, connect us. And the connections that we've made have come through those asks to our email list. And that was with a client who was in Elevate, I think. And she had joined from her university in Chile, and then she recommended us. And so that was like a really, really great connection. And the same with the UC Davis. I think she was an Amplify client who connected us there. So but you don't have to be a client to connect us to your university. So you can just send us an email. Gina, go ahead.
Well, I was also going to note that on a larger scale, the idea behind this is that our message, this message that we share in our programs, that's, in a way, it's not enough to just share it within our programs. It really needs to permeate the walls of like institutions. And so the more that your colleagues and your dean and your chair and everybody who makes the big decisions and like holds purse strings, the more that they start to hear our message and understand the new way that we want to do academia, the more that we're going to be able to push that kind of cultural change that we're looking for. And so in a way, it's really, really exciting because often in the program, people will say, gosh, I wish my colleagues understood this. I wish my college president understood this. And so I think that we're really going to be able to send that message out on a much larger scale, which is just in terms of our values is a really, really exciting way to move forward.
A really quick note, I'm coming in new to the community, and I think as academics, as graduate students, as faculty members, our work can be very isolating, even though we're producing and creating for a community. Our work can be very isolating. And there's a very powerful parallelism between the fact that Kathy Maysack started on her own, and we keep building this community that supports each other in transforming the way that we operate and that we seek for transformation in academia. So I think it's very powerful. And I have to resonate and say again that it's very exciting because we're no longer isolating each other, but really seeing how we continue to build this community through the institutional retreats, through the programs, through you name it, because 2023 has no limit. So that's it. Thank you, Rocio.
No problem. There are two things, Gina, that you said that I would love to highlight. And Carla, you mentioned one of them is this idea of, Gina, you said, I wish my coworkers understood this or heard these things. And it's that seeking community that brings us together. And even through the years that we've been together, co-creating and working with clients and improving, that was a thread that was weaved through all the programs and all our interactions. And that idea of just having a community that allows you to be, that allows you to grow, allows you to be confused and just rehash your ideas and kind of like move forward, right? And so I remember when we went on our first retreat and we actually met in person and how Felicia, one of our amazing year clients, just talked about how she didn't need that accountability per se that, kind of like gets on you and you feel bad and you kind of have to do things. And what she really wanted was that community. And that's what she was craving and needing. And that's what we've been able to, in some ways, create with each other and with our clients. And so sending these retreats or having these retreats with their own communities to almost like have them hear that language that we use and how we see things and create that cultural change. I think, Kathy, you've talked about it. Gina, you've talked about it. All of us are always thinking of what is the, one of the ultimate goals of this group is to, as a company, really change a little bit of that culture. And I don't know if that was the second point. I don't know if it's too much to disclose, but we really are after helping that person, that scholar, grow and have the life they want to have with the careers they want to have. And so, we are really intentional with how we assist and support someone through their journey because it's about them. And it's not just about that promotion and that check mark they will get. And most of the time they get what they want because we work with the person, not necessarily the institution in that sense. However, both get the benefits because the person grows, the person is happier, the person gets to be fulfilled. So that's not too much info on the institutional part of our view.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. I love that. So before we wrap up our podcast episode for today, I just wanted to make sure we talked a little bit about why we chose the name Scholar's Voice and how we did that, because I don't know, maybe you all have had the experience. I've definitely had the experience of trying to name something, like you name your lab or you name your, like you name your book, you name stuff. And it's like a process. We did not take it lightly. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. and then tell you about like the really cool things that are coming up imminently, including something this week that you all can participate in. So the first thing is we came up with this name, Scholar's Voice. And it was a little bit of one of these. I had a coach who used to call, or a podcaster that I used to listen to, who used to talk about like divine downloads, like these things that kind of drop out of the sky into your brain. And this did not, by the way. Like, so I wanted to just say, like, this was what we did instead. And I will recommend this book. It's a funny read, and it's actually a great book to listen to on audio. Yulia, our content manager and copywriter, and I don't know if Paulette also read it, but we read this book called Hello, My Name is Awesome. That's the title of the book. It's really cute. The cover has like those Hello, My Name is like name tag. And so the title of the book is Hello, My Name is Awesome by Alexandra Watkins. And it's a funny book, but what she talks about is like, what makes a really great company name? And I actually think it could be a great for labs or anything that you have to, research centers, anything that you might have need, grants, you know? So basically what we did was we followed her process, and she makes you go through like all of these different steps, and it involves search engines and all kinds of different things. And Yulia and I both did it we went into our corners and did it. And then we came together and we ended up with this kind of short list of possibilities. And the funny thing about the short list was that Scholar's Voice was on there, and Yulia was like, I really like Scholar's Voice. What do you think about that? And I'm like, I love it. Like, thank you for coming up with that. She's like, I didn't come up with that. So one of us came up with it, but we don't know who, or it got mysteriously written by the universe into the document without us involved. So we don't remember like who actually came up with the name, which I think it's better. And so Scholar's Voice is the name. And then something else that's funny that I don't know if you all want to comment on, but in August of this year, you might know that we take a company sabbatical in August. And this year, for the first time, we did a company retreat. So for 2 days, 3 days, we went to Washington, D.C. area, and we rented a big house, and we got a private chef, and we stayed there and did some branding work, and we took new photos, beautiful photos that you're going to see on the new website, which, by the way, is going to be at scholarsvoice.org. If it is not there already, it will imminently be released. Check your emails for the day. And took all these great pictures. And one of the things we were doing was branding work. And that's where you like really explore, okay, who's our ideal client? Who do we want to be as a company? And out of somewhere came like this tagline. And the original tagline was a new, more, better way to academic. And we all laughed about the more better. And we were like, that's funny. And also using the academic as a verb instead of as a noun or an adjective. We were like, this is funny. And then we were like, but it's good. Like, it's funny, but maybe we can get away with this like kind of quirky, sassy tagline for our company. So we actually sent it, not more better. We did a new, better way to academic. We sent that tagline to a bunch of our clients and just asked them, like, what do you think about this? And since the reaction was really positive, we were just like, we're going for it, because this makes me giggle, right? Like a new, better way to academic. And it's also what we're trying to do. We're trying to show people through our programs, through our podcast, in my book, in all the things we do, like, you don't have to do it the exhausted way. You don't have to do it the overworking way. You don't have to do it the way your advisor did it. Thanks. Even if your advisor was amazing, you know, like, you can do it in a different way, and you get to create what that way is. So I don't know if anybody has any memories they want to share from that, or just comments on the on the new, better way to academic, but I love it. Okay, no comments. It's fine. Then the other thing I wanted to ask before we wrap is just if anybody wants to talk a little bit about the two words that make up the name, right? Scholars and voice. How do we feel about scholars? When we think about scholars, why, like, what are the connotations? Who do you think of when you think about a scholar? Like, tell me about like your thoughts about that word.
Well,
Gina.
I'll start.
Calling on you. Yeah.
Well, I think that the titles that we use for ourselves are so important, and we often get really like tripped up on them. I remember when I left my position as a professor, I had to ask myself, am I still a professor? Am I, what am I now? And I think that sometimes that question of identity can really trip us up and can really make it difficult to just authentically express our voices. And so this idea of being scholars, that we all, regardless of what position we're in, regardless of what kind of an institution we work at, or if we work at one at all, regardless of whether or not we are actively working in academia, we are scholars, and that brings us together. And that kind of a community is a community that feels so much more inclusive. And so all of us falling under the umbrella of scholars feels a lot more exciting than just about any other word we've used to describe the people that we work with.
Go ahead, Carla.
That it unites us. It continues to bring the community closer together, because whether I'm pre-tenure or I'm already tenured, doesn't matter where in our career or personal lives we are all scholars in pursuit of that knowledge, in pursuit of continuing to grow academics and finding a new, better way to do academic, right? So yes, I love having a voice together that really brings us into an equal playing field to really continue to do the exciting work that we do.
I was going to say that I love this idea of inclusivity, Gina, because that really, it's the only word. I'm not a native English speaker. And so to me, words sometimes have a very different, not just meaning, but it's just the sound of them may or may not land the right way. And I know that Scholar felt definitely more inclusive of all the labels that I've had or heard of in academia. And that inclusivity to me is key, because that's part of this conversation of wanting to change the culture of this, work sector of academia, and how it's not always inclusive. And when I use the word, I feel like I'm sometimes almost like shining light on someone's, work, potential, trajectory, even hopes. And it's not just that the descriptor is not just an adjective. It really feels sometimes like a compliment, like, almost like uplifting and saying, yes, you are, as opposed to just the title. And so that's what I love about that word. I like that it just seems, it just seems like a good way to pay a compliment. And the fact that we have voice in there, it makes it even better, because that's a lot of what part of the content that we always share and talk about and reflect on is this idea of how we want our inner voice, and not the voice that we should have or are supposed to have, but really our identity comes through in the things that we do, and not, and just kind of like honoring that. And I love that in the whole name, we have a lot of what we talk about, a lot of what we, almost like try to make sure that it's there and present. It's in the name that we're using collectively. And it does sound like a collective as well, a community of all of us, and with all of the people that we work with as well.
Yeah. And I think too, like, that gives us room to grow. So one of the things that we've struggled with really in the past 6 years of being a company is like, well, who do we work with? Right. And sometimes it's a little hard because, like, for example, I'm thinking of a client that we had who worked at the CDC, right? And she was like, is this a program for me? I don't know. And then she came into the program and it was perfect for her. She needed to get publications out. She wanted to get a promotion. It's not the same exact structure. She wasn't a professor. She wouldn't have called herself a professor, but scholar, and what she was trying to do with her voice also kind of like includes her, right? So it just gives us room to grow into whatever we're going to become 10 years from now. Right now we work mostly with professors, mostly in tenure track positions, but this name lets us really expand beyond that someday, if that's what we're going to do. It invites all of you who are podcast listeners, I think, also to feel included in those ways. And I want to also just piggyback on what Rocio said about voice, right? Like what we really, our deep mission is really about all of you getting your voice out into the world, influencing your fields and helping you to really craft that career that you want to have for yourself. So that's I find that to be a very agentive word, right? Like it's a very powerful word to see yourself as having voice. And so, yeah, so those are some components. There's going to be more talk in future episodes where each of the coaches are going to really get to explore the meaning behind Scholar's Voice for them. And we're going to work with clients and have interviews with clients also. Go ahead, Rocio.
Just one last bit of thing in terms of this inclusivity of the new name. It feels funny to call it new because it's not so new, right? We've been living in.
I know.
But the new name, and it's the fact that it's another way to highlight this idea of we work with women and non-binary. And in some ways, every time we use the, women, even if we had the X, it just, sometimes it felt good and inclusive enough. And that word wasn't good enough, the word enough. And so I feel that Scholar helps us, even if it's just by just having some curiosity from whoever listens to the name, right? Oh, so do you work with women? And then we can be more intentional and say women and non-binary. And so that it gets cited in the conversation. And by default, we almost like very intentionally and just with words expand the meaning of the community that we're trying to continue creating and fostering.
Absolutely. Yes, I love that. Okay, so anybody want to say anything before I make a series of announcements? All right. So thank you all for joining me today. Oh, Rocio, this is, by the way, representative of every meeting we ever have, which is like, we're about to go. Anybody got anything? And we're like about to hit end. And Rocio's like, go ahead, Rocio.
Well, I just meant so much that you really are not here. So I'm trying to speak as if we had like 2 other people here. I'm just kidding. The one thing that I wanted to say is that this has been a process that everyone has been involved with, and we've all communally and just very transparently and vulnerably have been going through the whole process. But I just wanted to give a last shout out to you, Kathy, because it's not easy to have your company that you created and like your baby. And that was part of the process, right? To let go of some aspects and say, yes, this is what I want. But also it hurts to have to let go of the one thing that maybe was, just for you and you could just do it and do it, and you can still do that. But it's almost like we do it together, right? We allow for that confusion. And I know that I started working with you because I wanted to see you I wanted to have you as a mentor, but I got along the way other mentors, Paulette, Gina, Carla now, Thea, Yulia, and just to see a mentor with such, stature and just experience, vulnerably going through the motions of letting go and really getting into the process was very inspiring, and it still is. And so just one last shout out to you for doing all of this and making it what it is now and what it's going to be at some point.
Thank you. I will say, and I actually I'm going to do a solo episode and give everybody kind of like all the backstory and the history and things. Cause if you're like me, I'm interested in all that back, what's happening behind the scenes, I'm going to do a behind the scenes episode. But I will say, and this is for everyone in leadership roles, right? Like the more you progress as a leader, the more you want to be working in your zone of genius, and you want to be surrounding yourself with people who are working in their zone of genius. And it's like, it sounds great. And it's also so hard. It's so hard. You all have, I'm sure if you're listening, you've been in the situation where you've been like, I wish I had help with this. Then have to train that help. And then I would lose, but not even the training, the help. Then I would lose control. And if you're like me, you kind of like the control, but at the same time are complaining about it's all on you. You know what I mean? So this is the process. You have to, it's this process of letting go of your baby so it can become something better than you could have made it if you just decided to stay in your corner of the internet by yourself. Thank you very much. More to come there. A few announcements. This one's important. Today, if you're listening to this live, then on This is Tuesday, January 10th. And on January 12th, we are having a New Year's writing planning workshop that is open to everyone. So this is a workshop we do 3 times a year. Usually we do it just for clients, but we wanted to open it up to our whole entire community. So that is January 12th. I believe it's 11 o'clock Eastern time. So 11 o'clock a.m. New York City time. It'll be about an hour long. Bring a pencil and a notebook and a calendar. We're doing New Year's writing planning together. We're going to use our 3x3x3 planning method, which is part of which we teach inside of our programs, but we'll teach it to all of you. And it's something to do that you can use over and over again. At the beginning of every semester-ish, you can kind of plan the next 3 to 4 months of writing. If you want to get the link to join, you'll need to be on our email list. So if you're on our email list already, make sure that you check your email from us. And if you're not on our email list, you should go to scholarsvoice.org. And on every single page, there is going to be a little form that you can fill out so that you can get onto, we're calling it our newsletter. So every Monday, we publish a newsletter by email called In the Pipeline. We talk about kind of current events in writing and publishing. We share resources. We share book reviews. We share upcoming free events that we do, like this New Year's writing planning session. And then I think on Thursdays, we also send an email that announces our podcast episode is available, gives you some info about the podcast episode. So if you want to hear from us more, that's the best way to do it. Go to scholarsvoice.org. There's no apostrophe in a Scholar's Voice when you make it the URL. So it's just all together, scholarsvoice.org. You'll be able to get on our mailing list there. But if you go there and it's not ready or something happens, just write to us. Paulette will thank me for this. Just write to us at support@kathymazak.com, and Paulette will make sure that you get on the list and that you get the email for our New Year's writing planning session, which is happening on Thursday. Also, there's going to be a lot more new content in your podcast feed. I know that some of you might have been happy that we recycled podcast episodes a lot last year. Some of you might have been sad. Well, if you were in the sad group, you're going to be happy now because we're making lots of new podcast episodes for this year. So you'll be able, including a bunch of bonus episodes that are coming your way soon that are going to be a little different in format. So keep your ears open for that and make sure that you're subscribed to our podcast. And then finally, I want to tease that we are going to be enrolling a pilot session of a new format version of our signature program, which is called Navigate Your Writing Roadmap. So if you joined Navigate in November, do not panic. There will be opportunities for you in the future. But right now, what we're going to do is we're going to pilot a new version of Navigate. More details coming soon, just teasing that out. If you want all the details, come to the New Year's writing planning session, because I'll be giving those details at the end of our New Year's writing planning session. And don't worry, there'll be plenty of time to enroll. So thank you all for recording this podcast with me today. And thank you all for listening. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you so much for spending your valuable time supporting yourself and your writing by listening to this episode. If you like what you heard today, the best way to say thank you is to hop on over to Apple iTunes and write an honest review. The more reviews, the more amazing academic women and non-binary people will find this podcast. So go write one now.